Now we're live. All right. So welcome. Thank you guys for coming to this roundtable discussion. I've seen a lot of my black female Facebook buddies, as I call them, sharing this 443 article. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a well-written article. I thought that it was also missing some pieces. And one of the things that I noticed right away is it had a lot of the rhetoric that I see when it comes to this notion that I call NAS, which is an acronym for niggas ain't shit. So my first question for all of you is, have you ever thought or said niggas ain't shit? That's my first question for all of you. And you can just give a yes or no. Have you ever thought or said that?
I said it, but I don't actually think it.
Okay, so you said it before. All right, that's all I didn't know. Have you said it or thought it?
Said it before.
All right, so that's 2 for 2. Erica, you're muted. We can't hear you. We can't hear Erica. What's going on? I think she said it though. It looked like she said I said it. We still can't hear you. Let me see if you're muted on my end. No. Hold on, Erica. You still muted. What the? Unmute yourself. Try again. Can anybody hear Erica? Or am I tripping?
I can't hear.
All right. So it wasn't me that time. I didn't mute you. We still can't hear you. All right. Take your time. What about you, Divine, while Erica's getting her mic situated? We still can't hear you. What is going on? You're the YouTuber.
Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The answer to your question is yes, I have said it, but like the other sister said it. Never mind. Just yes.
All right. All right. There we go. All right. There we go. Honesty. There we go. All right. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on with Erica's mic. You are not muted on my end, but let me play with it on my side and see what happens. So it says I muted you. And can I unmute you? Oh, this is interesting. And now I gotta fly in here. Dang. I'm gonna eject you, Erica. Try to come back in. Let's see if that works. All right. All right, so we'll get her answer as she comes back. So let me tell you why I preference this conversation with that statement, because I think that is a statement that a lot of women, black women, I'll be more specific, end up saying at some point in time in life. I know I've heard it. I'm pretty sure I've put some females through it myself. I ain't gonna lie. And that notion, I think, carries on throughout black culture in general, but especially for females. And I think that also a lot of black females end up kind of buying into that for the long term, and they just expect that any guy that they get with is going to end up being not about anything. And I heard sentiments in that. She didn't say it in this article, but I could feel that pain and that grief that she was writing, because she's a very good writer, that was in there. Brianna, what's up?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, welcome.
Sorry, I'm late to the party.
Oh, don't worry. We just got started. You ready for the first question? It's raw and honest. You ready?
Yep, I'm listening.
All right. Have you ever said or thought, or do you feel like niggas ain't shit?
Definitely feel like niggas.
That's a yes.
I have to say that I do feel like it's not all niggas. It's about 99%.
All right.
I swear.
99%. Dang, that's tough. All right. Now y'all see what? Now before she came on, y'all remember what I said, right? Now you see how she just came right in and validated what I said. See that?
What did he say?
I said that I think that every black female has either thought that, felt that way, because they have had bad experiences with black men. And I think that notion of niggas ain't shit has carried on for a long time. And Divine had actually posted a video, because I had made the comment, like, this has been going on for over 40 years. And we have had carried on this kind of cultural piece, especially our Black females, that we cannot depend on our men. And what I seen in this article was she didn't say that directly, but she was hinting at it, and she had a lot of the same rhetoric that I see and I read all the time around it. So that's what I said. But you just came through and just, you know,
So
hit the nail on the head.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
absolutely. 99%.
I'm sorry.
solidified.
God.
Sorry,
And
lady.
you in a relationship with a Black male. You lucky. It must be like finding a unicorn to find a man, you know, is about something. 1%. My God.
Ooh, I know. That means I'm out. I'm dying all alone.
So I wanted to start with that because I had a feeling in my gut that all of y'all would have had that experience at some point in time in life, whether you with somebody now or not. Why do y'all think that is? Like, why, you know, where does that come from for you personally? Because, I mean, one of you I know is a first generation American Black female. The rest of y'all, I don't know where y'all at on the spectrum, but it's very interesting to see that no matter where you fall, if you're a Black female in America and you've been kind of socialized, you have that same notion.
Well, I'll say this. I've been in 2 significant relationships in my life, and and I'm just getting out of a 18-year marriage and relationship, and now as a divorced woman, what I was saying, what I found is that we contribute to that relationship, and to me, for me, that nigga ain't shit, but I also contribute to that nigga ain't shit because of the things that I did in the relationship. So I have a different outlook now. And I can turn around and say, oh, he did this and he did that to me, but what did I allow to do in that relationship, though? Did I say everybody's not bad, and I do not feel like every man ain't shit. I really don't. Even coming out of an 18-year relationship and recently divorced, I still don't feel that way. So I have a little different take on that.
What about some of you others? What do y'all think?
So I haven't personally experienced, I guess, some of the traumatic relationship stuff that's been expressed by Candice or maybe even people on this call. But I think the whole niggas ain't shit idea, it's kind of like permeated pop culture. It's like easy to say. It's like, especially when you do see some niggas not being shit. So I don't know. It's just easy to just kind of fall into that. But like I said, I say it, but I don't actually believe that. Like, I know too many shit niggas who are shit, I guess, to really believe that to be true.
I agree. I do think that it is. Oh, there's somebody else. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, Ginger. Welcome to the call.
Can you repeat the question, please, Brandon? It's Devon.
Yeah. So the question is, I'll re-preference it because Ginger just came in, so I'll re-preference it for her. So I had opened up, we're getting straight raw and honest right away with, have you ever heard, or have you ever said or thought that niggas ain't shit? And the reason why I said that is because when I read this article 443, the rhetoric in the article is very well written, but she was hinting at this whole notion that niggas ain't shit. That's what she was saying. And I was like, oh, this is very interesting. So I just started off the call to ask all the females, have you ever thought that? Have you ever felt that way? And so far, we've been 4 for 4. So I don't know if you want to chime in on that, Ginger, before I repeat the next question. What do you think if you've been in any relationships with Black men? And if you're not ready, that's cool too. Maybe not. If you're getting yourself together, that's cool too. Just let us know.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Welcome.
Oh, hey, welcome. Sorry. I was wondering what's going on with my thing.
Were you able to hear me?
I just fixed my settings just now. So I just heard you when I said, can you hear me?
Oh, all right. So we started off the call very raw, open, and honest. And I posed a question. And the question was, have you ever felt or thought that niggas ain't shit? And the reason why I said that, is because in the article 443, the author was a well-written article, but what she had a lot of the rhetoric, and it was kind of embedded in her article that I hear a lot with black females when it comes to their relationships with black males, that black males ain't no good. So my posing question to start off the conversation was, have you ever said that or felt that way?
I think as a woman, I think at different points, yeah, we probably felt like, men are just worth nothing at different points. I don't want to say.
Okay.
I don't want to say that those actual words. But
right.
Yeah.
I know.
Right?
Yes. You don't want to say it's actual word, but you've had that feeling. Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. There we go. 5 for 5. Okay. So the next question was, where does that come from for you? Like, where does that come from? Because in this article is really talking about just like grief, like her grieving over a relationship that she's had. She talked about not having any other partner since then. She hinted at it in the article. Where does that come from for you? That notion that the men in your life have just been awful.
Have been what?
Bad, awful.
I don't
horrible.
feel that way.
Oh. I mean, I don't know.
Oh,
I don't necessarily feel like they've been awful. I think for me personally, I look at them as teachers. Like, I look at it like this. Every single negative romantic relationship I've had, all those men were messengers in my life for the unhealed parts of me. So I'm either going to look at them as, they ain't shit, or I'm going to look at like, what is he here to teach me about myself? Because at the end of the day, there's something about me that allowed me to accept him into my life and to continue accepting his, the drama or whatever it is that was going on. Yes. So that's pretty much one of the shifts that I had to make in my own life, because I couldn't there's but so much time that you can spend saying, men are this or men are that, and how they're, it's like at some point we have to take responsibility for ourselves and just say, hey, what is it about that let him into my life, even after he showed me who he was, even after he took my temperature, and I just did not even say, okay, so this is no longer for me. So I think one of the things I see a lot of young women doing is just like they default into victim mode. And it's like, here's the thing. When you default into victim mode, the men that's out there that are willing to treat you like prey will continue to do so. So quite frankly, niggas ain't shit is not going to do anything for you, but continue to put you in a position that you have been with some of these men. And I'm not saying that the things that they have done are good. It's not my job to change him. It's my job to change me so that I to accept what he's given me.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that?
I agree. So it's just kind of like being in the position of a family member. I actually just wrote an article about boundaries today earlier, and it was just about not allowing. So boundaries is what teaches people how to treat us, right? What kind of boundaries we enforce and what we allow and will not allow in order to conserve our integrity and our self-worth, right? So it's so utilized so much, but what you allow is what will continue. If somebody does something one time to you, usually 9 times out of 10 they will do it again. And I think that the niggas ain't shit thing comes in issues because my father wasn't shit, and I had to go to therapy about that because I was welcoming in people in my life who didn't belong there, So I do believe that there is this victim mentality that young women face where it's just like, okay, it's you, it's not me. But if you've dated 5 men and they've all ended in shambles, there's something about you that is attracting these men, or that is allowing these men to be around you long term and continuously draining you and passing you off, or you're passing yourself off onto the next one thinking that that's going to be different, So I do think that, no, I don't think it's all of a woman's fault, because I do feel like people victim blame us a lot too. However, there is some accountability we have to have for ourselves.
Okay.
I would echo what the other sisters were saying. This is Devon. Sorry, y'all. It's dark. Can you hear me? And it's a lot of what you said. You know, when I think about my own experience, oftentimes it was just grounded in some of what she got, kind of the plight of the Black woman, and how on this onus and this responsibility to kind of ride it out with the brothers, no matter what. I know, me personally, that's how I feel. I can't speak for everyone.
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree too.
But in general, and this is, I think there's some value in that, but I think there's a fine balance to where you can do that, but you can do it without losing yourself.
Right.
And so I heard you guys talk about setting some clear boundaries. I got to the point, you know, as you get older, you get wiser. I became really clear about what I won't deal with. Not so much all this dream this and dream that. It was like I had some real clarity about what I won't deal with. And this, you know, speaking as a domestic violence survivor, you know, we've all been survivors of many things. And so rather than trying to control or shape the other person, I made a conscious decision to say, okay, I know that if these, you know, 4 or 5 things come up, I absolutely won't deal with that. Now, if there's love at play and, you know, there's some depth to the relationship, I'm willing to go through as long as I see you progressing and on the journey to your best and most healthy self. That's what is going to be required to restore the Black families, because we have this expectation for whole men to be presented to us, and knowing that there are all these societal things that are breaking our men, but we want them to come whole, and then we not whole. You know what I'm saying? So I had to, again, speaking from my own experiences, I went through niggas ain't shit. My daddy wasn't shit, you know, and all of that, right? But the I would say the kind of the turning point became when I took ownership over my own life and my own destiny and the choices that I made, and no longer, like the sister said, no longer was I the victim. I was a survivor, and I was one who could take my life experiences and say that I survived. And there's a reason why I survived. There's a greater purpose, and I see that that purpose in being the resurrecting and the restoration of strong Black families. Thank you. Y'all the bomb, by the way.
I just wanted to add a little bit to that, you know, because people ask me, like, how would you divorce somebody after being with them 18 years? Why did you leave your house? Why did you give him the house and give him this and give him that? And I said, because I found that was more suitable for my family for me to leave. It was toxic. He didn't want to break up with me, but I had to decide that this is a toxic relationship. And I can't blame him because I allowed those things to happen to myself. So, and I always feel like it's two. And I'm never going to blame him or downplay him, because he is an African-American man and he do take care of his kids. He take care of his priorities. But I had to realize he's not good for me and I'm not good for him. So I feel like sometimes we say that statement and playing the victim. You're right. And I agree with that. But I'm not a victim. I am a survivor. And I don't want to talk about him, and I'm not going to downplay him, because guess what? I'm over him. And people look at me like, what do you mean? You're not mad? You're not bitter? No. Why am I bitter? Why should I be bitter? For what? Okay. I realized that I did some things as well, and I allowed some things to happen. And it took me, unfortunately, 18 years to realize it, to stand up and walk away.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm gonna swing back to that. Erica joined the call again. Hi, Erica.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you now. Welcome.
Okay. I was gonna say, she just took a stream of ownership. There's a book and it's called A Stream Ownership, and it's whenever you say, okay, I am responsible for every step that got me here, and I can make steps to change it, better place. Like when they have men that come back from war and they lose a limb or a leg, they're always saying, what are you going to do tomorrow about it? Right? Like, we've lost the limb, it's gone. What can we do? And it always puts the people in a better position, and mentally help, just health wise and mentally, that they can have some control over their life. Because going through extreme, marriage, whether it's a divorce or a health issue, you do feel like you've lost control of your life. And that is something we need to recognize for these people. These people who are in these relationships that are really long and they break up with some guy, they do feel like they're married. And so you see a lot of bitterness, you see a lot of vitriol, a lot of these guys ain't crap. but it also comes from them not taking responsibility for their part in it. And I just had to say that part. Go ahead. I know you have another question you're going on to.
Okay. So Brianna had mentioned boundaries. I think that boundaries are important. How do women know what their boundaries are? Is this something that is developed like as you get to know somebody, or do you go into relationships knowing, like, how do y'all know?
I think personally for me, it came from experience. You don't know what you're not willing to deal with until you have had to deal with it before, or you've been put in a position to deal with it. I mean, some people just know right off the bat. Maybe they saw other people deal with it, because sometimes you're supposed to learn from what you see other people go through, so you don't have to go through the same thing. But there are some things you just can't protect yourself from, and unfortunately we have to be in unfortunate circumstances to learn from it and create those boundaries. I mean, I know that's what it's been for me, and how I've mentioned that in the article, is that being put in a position where I was being, I was around all these people who needed rescuing, and I was always considered the rescuer. I mean, I just had to put up some type of boundaries. And the same thing is for relationships. Like, you can be in a relationship that will completely drain you. I mean, it'll drain your emotionally, your money, like everything, if you don't put up a boundary.
I think also when we talk about boundaries, I think really what I often hear is the need to control the relationship, because some of these, most if not all of these relationships are codependent relationships. And here's the thing, helping a guy out, right? Or being there for him. Help is just the sunny side of control, right? Because we think that if we help him do this, we help him do that. What we're really trying to do is help ourselves to his love. We really shouldn't have to be proving ourselves in this way in order to secure somebody's love. So I hear boundaries, but most of all, I hear that it's not my job to control someone. It's not my job to get him to do this or to do that. It's just, this is who I am. You're going to either respect it or you're just not going to. But some of us are too, I guess I don't look at it like it's boundaries. When I think boundaries, I mean, I'm thinking about disrespect. I'm thinking about the extent to which I'm willing to tolerate certain things. But what I hear a lot of women doing instead is trying to control the situation by trying to be a quote unquote helper, trying to help him get from A to B when that's not our job in the first place.
I was going to say two books that are really, really important, and I'll hold one up. I only have this one in front of me, but it's called The Meaning of Marriage by Tim Keller. And there's another book called Boundaries, and they do boundaries in dating, boundaries with children. It's therapist wrote it. But the thing about boundaries is almost equivalent to self-esteem.
Yeah.
A lot of people will say, well, how are these people getting in these relationships? And you date to the level of your self-esteem. And so we'll see women who have nice cars, nice degrees, and then they're with this guy, and I make a joke and I call him Dusty Jerome's. And
we got tons of those in Minnesota, by the way.
Yeah. Not that other men of her level didn't approach her, didn't talk to her, but somehow she's gotten this kind of codependent thing, which is right what she's saying, where they've Jerome needs her. Jerome needs to be beside her, needs to work with her, helps her with her kids. And I think a lot of that boundary talk comes out of self-esteem. And I was reading this study, and it was showing how girls who are chubbier in high school and college, don't have as many dating opportunities because, that 15 to 25 year age, there's a lot of teenagers, a lot of hormones, a lot of dating. And so it kind of changed their projection into adulthood. And it was saying how it made them keep lowering their standards of what was acceptable behavior, right? And so I think you have to kind of reinforce in children healthy self-esteem. If you got teenage daughters, or if you have teenage son, people shouldn't talk to you this way, or people shouldn't treat you a certain way. And so you have to really enforce that, because I think watching our peers or looking on Instagram, people are like, everybody's dating except for me. What does that come out of? And that comparison, you two people are not the same. So you can't really compare someone's Instagram dating life to your everyday life. And so that's another, I don't want to go on a tangent, but I'll mute it there.
I want to say, for me, for boundaries, it was something learned. I didn't know what my boundary was until I went and experienced and went through I wouldn't say it was self-esteem because I've always been a very powerful individual, and I always had great self-esteem for myself. So it wasn't that for me. I didn't have an example of a mother and a father that was in the marriage, so I didn't know. I literally did not know. So as I was going through year by year, day by day, I would learn different things and learn that, oh my God, I can't take that. But then after I wake up and see stuff, I got 3 kids. I have a grandbaby. I have this, I have that. And it's like, how do you leave all of that? How do you walk away from that after you built all that? So my boundaries was learned along the way. Along those 18 years, I learned what I am willing to take, what I'm willing to accept, and what I'm willing not to accept. And at the end of it, it's like, you know what? I'm not accepting this no more. I'm done. I'm out. So, but I do see that on the flip side of it. I do see the self-esteem, and I do see those women that have degrees, nursing degrees, and being with all these different type men that are not at the same level that they at. So yeah, I agree with that too. So I agree with both of
them. So something that I agree with what the ladies were saying, but something that I think that wasn't really brought up is how both self-esteem and even boundaries are brought up by like societal expectations. And so basically what we teach women, specifically Black women, kind of sets up a lot of women to enter into relationships that they know aren't really even. It makes them more likely to put up with things because you start hearing, like, you know, they use certain statistics against us about, you know, whether Black men are heterosexual or in jail or faithful or whatever the case may be. And so then you find someone who is, I don't know, 6 foot heterosexual with a bachelor's degree, and you're like, okay, so what if he has 4 other girlfriends and I'm going to compete with it? So I do think it is self-esteem, but I also think it's kind of community and what it is that we tell women is acceptable to put up with.
I was going to say there's a stat like
Brandon, what you laughing at?
Sorry. Brandon about to get in trouble. Let me back up.
I ain't even got started yet. I got some more questions coming. Don't worry. Y'all can be cussing me out by the end of this.
There's a stat where they show that, they were so worried when they did this, the census. They were like, all these Black women aren't married. Well, then they do a census, a little mini half census 5 years later, and they were showing the rates of the average woman 33 to 35 is when these Black women are getting married. The average white woman is around 25 to 27. So a lot of times you're reviewing people's lives and comparing people's lives, and that's not even our timeline. That's not even our timeline. If you are looking at Mucha Let a Bride or any of these mainstream minority catalogs on weddings, a lot of the ladies are older. A lot of the marriages you're seeing out there are older. They're not 25 or fresh out of school. Even the census is starting to back that up. Like, they were so concerned about all these Black ladies, but if you look at 5 and 10 years down the road, they were like, oh, a lot of these women in the 90s we were worried about are just getting married later. So I think sometimes people build up these expectations and they got to like bring it down a notch,
Well, let me throw something in there with that, because I think there's some cultural implications when it comes to when you compare Black women and white women. I heard this quote, and I don't know, I'll see what you guys think about it, but I heard this quote that white women go to college to find a husband and Black women go to college to prove they don't need one. Anybody ever heard that?
Yeah. I've seen it a couple times.
Yeah.
All right.
all the time.
Yep, it's true.
Now, okay, so do people agree with that? Because, I get my undergrad experience ended almost 10 years ago. And I would pretty much say that's kind of how it was. Like, all my cool female friends from college, like, a lot of them ain't got no man. A lot of them have really bad relationships. And I don't know what it is, because a lot of them is fine. Don't get it twisted. And I'd be scratching my head like, I don't know why you ain't got no man, because you find, in Minnesota, there's a lot of corporate jobs. So they work, they making good money for the most part, but there's like a disconnect. And I don't know what it is. So what do y'all think about that?
I think that it goes back to the statement of niggas ain't shit. And so for real, because in that mentality, it's like, well, you know what, they ain't shit, so I'm about to make this money. I'm gonna go to school, and I don't need a nigga to take care of me. I'll take care of myself. And then I think they just implant it in their head, and they go on through life and keep that attitude and mentality, and they never really open themselves up to receive a good man because they so focused on, I don't need a man for nothing. I hear it all the time, and it irritates me. It's like, yeah, you do. You do.
That's right. That's right.
No, it ain't one.
It's a wrap.
I don't know. I was gonna say.
I think there's definitely a level of propaganda that goes along with that. To promote this idea, this independent woman, I'm strong, I'm independent, I don't need a man. This whole narrative that is targeted at Black women in particular. And it's by design, right? And so again, back to the strong Black family structure. As long as you broke down the whole history. I've seen you do it, Brandon, and that should be commonplace in our conversations about how we got here, because there are systemic things that have engineered the conditions that we're seeing right now. And I think there's power in knowing that history, and we can use it as a tool to heal ourselves, because this whole notion of individualism and I'm okay by myself as long as I'm good. I got my degrees, I got my car. I'm worried about that. You're gonna grow old, alone, and sick. And it's counterintuitive. It is counterintuitive for our people. We are communal people. We are meant to be together. We are meant to be bonded and connected in that way. And that is another thing that causes the disease. And so a lot of what is being promoted to Black women is just counterintuitive. It's against everything in our very DNA.
Gotcha. All right. So real quick, if you are not speaking, please mute your mic, because we getting all your background information. And I hear some dude, he's back there talking. And if you don't want, I don't want your man cussing you out because you're on the line with me. So, so please mute your line. Yes, please mute your line. I don't want all your business out on the internet either. So, speaking of people being on the internet,
that was me. My bad. I got a group of people, and they all want to be on the conversation. So I'm gonna mute them. My bad.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Shay, welcome to the conversation. You haven't spoke yet. I seen you come in. Is there anything that you would like to add? You're muted. So if you were talking,
I had to mute myself.
There you go. There you go.
Nothing yet. I'm listening because I came in on the call late, so I'll chime in when I'm ready.
Sure thing. Okay. Well, let me ask you a quick question. I've asked everyone on the line this question. It's a raw question. You don't have to use the same language I'm about to use. But have you ever had the thought, or have you ever said yourself that niggas ain't shit? Ever?
Yes.
All right, there we go. 6 for 6. Bang. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna start asking Black females this on a daily. Like, have you ever said niggas ain't shit? Have you heard of Nas? Have you heard of Nas? It's an acronym, not the rapper. Like, niggas ain't shit. Yeah. Cause all y'all think this. Like, this is crazy to me. My wife thinks it. She ain't grow up in the hood. She grew up in the suburbs. She thinks it.
I'm from military town and suburbs. Military town and suburbs as well. And the funny thing about when you're saying those women that graduated college with you aren't married, I would say that my mom did 26 years nonetheless, but I see a lot of Black women when I would go to on Fort Bragg, or I'd be here in Killeen, and they're married to, you name it, Asian, Latino, Black, whoever. And I think it is an environment thing. And studies show, like, whoever you're around is who you marry, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're a janitor, you're married to a janitor. If you're a UPS worker, oh, look at that woman in the UPS store. You guys are going to match where you are. And so I think sometimes you have some of these African-American ladies in work environments where homeboy's already married.
Right.
Tall Brad down the hall is already married.
Right.
So it's not just that they're coming with anger or leaving college. Most people don't realize when they leave college, that's the number one time they're going to see that many opposite sex opportunity partners.
Right.
Period.
And it goes back,
they don't know that part.
Yeah. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier, is that if you go into college thinking that, you don't need a man, and you're about to be the strong, independent woman because you can't depend on the man, you're actually betting against yourself when you do that. And I think that that's something that a lot of young Black females end up, like, you know, they're hurting themselves in the long run for that. Because when you're playing dudes to left, or you're dating the wrong dudes on college campuses, so don't think that all brothers on college campuses is the right dude, because that ain't true. But when that ends up happening, like, you're betting against yourself. So in the long run, once you get out of college and you start working and you hit 30, and then now it's slim pickings, because by then folks is already done, you know, they done been married and I had kids. You don't want no dude with no kids. And then if you look at statistics, you know, they're not making $50,000 a year or anything like that. Like, they're not even in that bracket. So like, that's your opportunity, is really in college, that a lot of folks end up missing. So I don't know. It's a lot. Any other thoughts or comments?
So I kind of think it's like, I can't think of the word I want to use, but we'll go with, like, I guess dangerous, maybe disingenuous, to kind of compare what we do to white people, because we are not entering into the same resources. Like, my mother didn't tell me to go to college to find a man, because college is expensive and you're there to study and learn and get a job and pay these student loans back. And we just don't have the same financial capital or social capital as white people. And so, like, holding what they do as a standard for how we should set out our relationships is just, I don't know, it's inappropriate, it's stupid.
No, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all.
I agree.
Any other thoughts?
Well, we also have to, this is Che.
Yeah.
We also have to realize that not all of us go to, like, an HBCU, for example. A lot of us are in predominantly white institutions in college. And oftentimes, you know, most of those campuses are anywhere from 2% maybe to 12% on a good day, Black or African American, in which case you may or may not, and that may or may not be reflective of a United States Black American, and maybe Black people from diaspora, and like all of that comes into play in terms of who you're meeting. Like, I remember going into college, I went to an extremely small, predominantly white college locally, and there was probably, I think I remember being 20 of us, and maybe like 5 of them were Black males, and none of them were anyone that I could think like you would be interested, like that common, that we were like more like family than we were trying to date each other kind of a situation and scenario.
You're trying to survive.
Yeah. And then when you graduate, I mean, and for me, I think that whole, like, I grew up around very working class Black men, and that is totally okay and fine with me. So me going into being that first generation college student, getting that college degree, was like, I don't know if I want to date the Black man in corporate America, and if I could hang with it and what I could do with that and which not. And so you kind of, it depends on how you seek and see yourself in those circles, or how bad you want to be in those circles. And then in essence of just going back to the NAS conversation, I think a lot of that comes up based on just treatment that you get from Black men. Like, mine came up after dealing with my ex-husband in particular, and like all of our scenario. It was just kind of like, it was y'all just, and watching a bunch of his friends in his circle, and I'm like, y'all just ain't shit. And what I realized, that was their confidence. Like, you don't have confidence in yourself, so you acting a fool and you doing all of these shenanigans. But it took a long time to like realize that, to make some decisions when you moving around that. But it's, you know, I mean, it's a two-way street. There's also like our own history and how we carry that. That's that myth of the super Black woman that we need to break and bust. It's not real. It's not true. You need a man to have sex with if you just need your pipes clean. So you can't walk around saying, I don't need a man, because you do.
You better tell him. You better tell him.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's just real.
And go home and cry and roll up in the fetal position and cry yourself to sleep every night.
Yes.
Dude, what's so funny about what she just said? I have a lot of white friends, and they'll be like, "You're so strong, Erica." I'm like, no, don't say I'm strong. Like, I have issues. Like, I'm getting ready to have surgery. Like, my mom's gonna come in town and take care of me because I ain't got a boyfriend right now. Like, whenever people start throwing that strong label out, I'm quick to stop that, because I can cry.
That's right. You're human. You're human.
Human. So yeah, there was a point in time in Austin where I was like transitioning out of 2 jobs into getting my real estate license. And they're like, "You're so strong, Erica." I'm like, "Don't say that. Don't say that, because you're already, all the dudes that are around us, you're pushing them away from me."
That's
in
right.
that way by you saying that. So I always correct people when they say that.
And black men can't handle when we're vulnerable. I mean, the black men I have been around have a hard time accepting vulnerable black women. Like, it is like, especially if you're a person who's done some work and thought about yourself and where you want to be, and you're just like, I'm gonna put it out there, I'm not strong, like, I need you right now. It's hard for them to hear that from us, because we are just a strong gender. Like, we kind of are the superwoman in essence. I mean, that's been our history in this country. And so when you are changing that narrative, it's hard for people to deal with that and navigate it. They don't know what to do with it.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I would say I'm a retired simp. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I'm super sensitive. I grew up around a whole bunch of women, so I already have this and that's probably why I became a therapist, by the way. I have this like ingrained part of me to like pander to women's emotions. I don't think most dudes have that, and I think that we have been socialized and conditioned as men to take advantage of those opportunities instead of nurturing them. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense? Because I feel like because vulnerability for a man, especially in this society, if we smell vulnerability, we will act upon it for our own best interest. And I think that hurts sometimes when we talk about building relationships, is because we are actually going to just like pounce on that opportunity for whatever gain we need. I don't know.
And I think that circles back into codependency. So, like,
absolutely.
There are so many people that are together not because they still love each other, but because they are so codependent on each other to be for happiness. It could be money. It could be just the thought of still having that person. Like, people are together for so long that they don't know how to exist without the other person, and they don't want to know. Like, they fear what it's going to be like, or what life is like. Let's say if you're with the man, he's paying all the bills, or vice versa, or whatever the case may be. Or maybe you just with a man because his sex is good. That's a codependency. A lot of women and men do become dependent on each other. So like you said, and that plays into people smelling low self-esteem, vulnerability, because our first action is to, whether it's in the workplace or relationships, to pounce on vulnerability. Like, oh, you making yourself seem like a target? I'm gonna play on that, and a lot of people do. And yeah.
I was going to say, in that book I held up earlier, The Meaning of Marriage, it was saying a lot of times you see all these angry interactions between men and women who are supposed to be friends because somehow the woman has kind of over-attached, or the man. It happens either way. We can call it the friend zone on one side, guys like to say that, or the woman has over-invested. And it was saying ways that they've over-invested in the book was talking about, you ever see a friendship where she's staying over his house late, she's listening to all his work drama, she's giving him encouragement, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you should probably do this, and then off in a few months or a year later, he's off dating someone else. And I think I brought up to Brandon, I was in like 10 different credit groups, and over and over, you'll see all these women, I'm fixing my boyfriend's credit, I'm fixing his this, I'm fixing his car payments, I'm fixing his life. And months later, you'll be in that same credit repair group, and everybody's like, well, he left, he's gone. He's not there. And you don't want to mock her, but you're like, that's why the women, usually the older women in the group, are like, are y'all married? Are y'all engaged? Is there a kid involved? Why are you doing all these activities that are way overcommitted to somebody who's not even committed to you? Yeah. And, people, you can be wherever you want to be on marriage, but I find that if somebody loves you and they don't want you to be embarrassed, they go ahead and throw it down, put the ring on you. So, yeah, I mean, it's up to you.
Wow. And I think that, especially for black women, I think black women have been conditioned to take care of men. I've been on record to say that black women have been conditioned in Western society, mainly the United States, to be responsible for black men's masculinity, and to nurture that. And I think that that's dangerous. And I think that men should be kind of the core in socializing and pushing that forward, not necessarily women. But unfortunately, it turns out that women have. So I don't know what y'all think about that. I think Ginger was about to say something. I seen her pop up.
I want to see that damn movie.
Oh no.
No.
Mosquitoes.
Now,
We can hear you, Divine. You getting ate up out here. Get some off.
My bad. I got bumped. I just got back on. I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem.
Can you repeat the question, please?
I don't even remember what I just asked, so I'm gonna move on to my next questions. All right. So earlier, accountability was mentioned, and this is where I feel like I'm about to get in some trouble. So one of the things that I feel that does not happen enough is I don't think Black women hold other Black women accountable, and I feel like when men step over the boundary and say things about how to hold Black women accountable, we get hit over the head and we get called like Tommy Sotomayor and all these like MGTOW dudes, that people that just hate women, right? And I feel like we wouldn't necessarily have to do that if more women were holding other women accountable. Now, this is from an outside perspective looking in. I could be completely wrong, but how do y'all feel about accountability in women as far as women holding other women accountable?
Well, this is Devon. I will say I feel a great sense of responsibility, in part because I'm raising 3 sons, and you know, I'm hoping one day they'll find lovely wives that will come from wonderful families. And I know the odds of that happening are slimmer and slimmer as our families continue to be fragmented. That's a big part of the work for me is doing my own personal work, doing my own self-study and self-mastery, so that I can be a model for my children. You know, our children need to see healthy Black relationships, and not, you know, so much of what they see on reality TV. You know, our young people have started to believe that that's how they're supposed to behave in relationships, and that is oftentimes the only model. Yeah, I'm gonna stop there.
Can you say more about the question? Like, accountable to what?
Accountable to, okay, I can go into this and then I'm about to really get, okay. So when I see bad Black female behavior, okay, I'm trying to think of some notable people. Black China.
Wait, hold on. Okay. Hold on, because I already feel you're going to dig a hole. And you're
I already dug a hole.
No, I was going to say the 3 that I hear the most. If you're going to say Tommy Sotomayor, if you're going to say MGTOW, I was going to say single moms, weight,
we can say that,
you know, and debt, materialism/debt, right? And the bad behavior surrounded by those 3. And I'm just saying those as what those are talking about those people.
Those are the big talking points, right? So single motherhood.
Who are them people?
All right, so those people. So MGTOW is not a person; it's an actual like movement of MGTOW stands for men going their own way. And it's a movement of men. Forget females because y'all on some BS. We're gonna do our own thing, which I'm not. Oh yeah, it's lucrative too. It's out there. Tommy Sotomayor, I always call him Tony. Tommy Sotomayor is well-known, big-time YouTuber, mostly for his controversy, for a lot of different things. But he goes hard. He goes in on Black females for sure, real hard. So, and I'm nowhere close to him. And I don't even really mess with him or listen to him at all. And then those are the kind of the 2 movements that get pointed out the most. But what ends up happening is there's a lot of men, some men that I listen to, and some points that I agree with, and they start to put females to task on certain things. But usually they do talk about one of those 3 things, whether it's materialism in women, how y'all buy a lot of weaves and y'all spend your money on stupid stuff, or single motherhood, or it's just like y'all fat and out of shape and y'all need to get, if y'all want a man, y'all need to lose some weight. That's usually the talking points.
Wow.
However, embedded in that, embedded in those kind of bigger kind of trigger points, there are some valid points that men make about what women.
What are they?
I was just about to say, please make them clear. What are the valid points?
What are the valid points?
That the priorities are mixed up.
Priorities are messed up.
Okay, I was like, there you go.
So priorities are messed up. Women do not admit to their side of what's messed up about it. They just blame men for it, which is where I seen a lot of the rhetoric in this article. And I can give y'all quotes from the article if you want me to. And that's my thing.
Go ahead. Hold on, Brandon. I was going to say, usually they do it in a line. They'll go, you guys get with the bad boys have children, then you gain weight, you're in debt, then you look for the good guy.
And then
so
you
that's
want the
the
good guys.
whole MGTOW movement. As much as they want to claim that's what it is.
Wait.
That's the MGTOW movement, being honest. That's what they used to say.
That is what they say. And I think part of that is true. And that's why you got that visceral reaction. Because a lot of y'all will go for the dudes y'all know y'all shouldn't be dealing with right away. And then after the fact, that's what you're trying to find. And then you're trying to find, Mr. Right when it's too late, because Mr. Right done moved on to somebody else, or he ain't available, or you find out he's a different sexuality than what you are. Like, a lot of different things start happening. So that, I think there is some truth in that, because a lot of them females I was talking about earlier that
all
look
women
good,
of all races do that.
Yes, they do, and that's yes, they do. However, the difference is the socialization between other ethnic groups of women and Black women, right? Because we just talked about that earlier, where those other women are looking for those opportunities a lot sooner than Black women are. And then a lot of Black men who do have their stuff together later on in life, they're like, why would I want you now when you wasn't paying me no attention before? Which I think is different.
Does it really come down to when they do it, or does it really come down to the reasons behind why they're doing what they're doing? Whether you want to call it socialization or culture or family or friend influence, at the end of the day, all races of women do things that maybe don't benefit them in the long run. So might a better question be, how can we get women to a point where they're making healthy decisions for themselves?
Yes.
Versus, y'all Black women to this, y'all Black women to that. I mean, how really would a Black woman respond to that? She's really probably not going to respond in a positive way.
Right. Which I agree with. And that's why I'm having this roundtable discussion. Because that's what I'm saying is, how do we get women, Black women in particular, to respond to this differently? And I think that comes from other women who are responding to it in a better way to hold those other women accountable. And I don't know if that's happening all the time. I think we praise and we kind of champion some of the dysfunction in Black women, and that ends up breeding more of the kind of messed up relationship stuff that we have.
It's true.
So I agree with your question, Ginger. Go ahead, Ginger.
Oh, no, I mean, I agree. I think one of the things that I often find is that, I guess, the way that we approach the issue, like, we have to ask ourselves, do we want folks to really be able to hear our hearts, or are we more concerned with just kind of like coming at people and saying, well, y'all do this and y'all do that, y'all do that. Like, no one's really going to listen to us when we do that. But I mean, I see women from all races do the same things that Black women do. It may not be with weaves or things like that, but it might be just in other areas where they have their priorities messed up. But we don't see it because we don't live in their life. We don't live their culture. But I think that every single woman from every single race and culture has things that they can shift around to be more in line with, in terms of, so they can make certain moves to make sure that their lives move forward, versus kind of like focusing on the things that keeps them from moving, that holds them back rather.
Brandon, this is Erica. So I'm a big fan of numbers, and so a lot of the MGTOW movement, a lot of people say, well, why are Black men in the MGTOW movement? It's not even about them. So I'll agree with some of their points, but if you really want to look at numbers, 70% of single parent mom births, yes, that's the Black community, but right now with white women, 40% of their children are being born out of wedlock.
Right.
Okay.
And that's my thing. Why are we always comparing ourselves to white people? Why are we always comparing ourselves? Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. So even the second point about weight loss, so 80%, BMI, I don't agree with their numbers, but 80% of Black women are overweight, but 70% of Black men are overweight. So you're having this argument that's almost a false argument in the Black male community about these overweight Black women and this debt and stuff. And I just laugh at it because I go, half the time I go out, it's not that I'm not approached by Black males. They're just as overweight and having, it's kind of an unrealistic, not a real measuring of themselves. Let's just say it that way.
Yeah, I don't know why this gets turned in, and maybe I'm still not understanding what are they called? Midtown people? I don't know. What is it?
MGTOW, men going their own way.
Oh. Yeah. So maybe I just still don't understand their points, but I don't understand why this is a gendered issue. Like, we as an entire community are materialistic, And you can look to the reasons why about a third of us coming up under poverty. And that's kind of how we do like self-care and soothe and all this other stuff. And what was the other stuff about gaining weight? Like she mentioned, like the Black community as a whole is fat. So it's like, how can you be mad at a Black woman for being fat when you're fat also? And then the single mother, like she didn't make herself a single mother. So I don't understand what is there to hold somebody accountable to.
Okay, all right, slow
this
down.
Is Devon. Can I just add one thing to that?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interject earlier, sis, but this is what's frustrating. Data is very important. We need the numbers, right? But I constantly ask myself, why are we comparing ourselves to other people groups, right? And in communities like mine, where there's all these conversations about disparities, the narrative itself creates this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. And people begin to align with that narrative. And so to Brandon's point, it's our responsibility, those of us who have some level of consciousness, some of us that have done some of the personal internal work and managing our own pain, have to share that with other sisters and say, look, I've been where you are. I know what it's like. This is how I survive. Now that takes a certain level of trust and vulnerability that things like technology and social media and Google Hangouts don't really give us an opportunity to build intimacy. That's what that requires. There's so many layers to it, y'all, and we have to hold one another up. We all we got. Ain't nobody else coming to help us or save us. The Black woman has always had to carry it. So why are we complaining now? I imagine this is what the article said to me. I think about what my ancestors had to endure with their men and children, right? And what Black women are now enduring with our men and children. If I'm going to compare myself to anything, that's what I'm going to compare myself to. If I'm going to compare my experiences and my life circumstances, that's what I'm going to compare myself to, and not to negate the reality of the numbers and how the message behind that. But we have to caution ourselves and have a real clear counter narrative that
Sure.
I'm a big data person too, so I love having the data. But when I watch the people in certain audiences, when I hit them with the numbers, some of them drop their head because they see themselves in those numbers. And if you're not coming with that real strong counter narrative that we know we can't rely on mainstream media to give us about ourselves and our men and our children, it's our responsibility. And I just want to ride this journey with y'all.
I just want to say, I definitely agree with what you're saying. Even if we just do the numbers just for our community, where I'm mad about a little bit about the MGTOW movement is so many African-American men in the 70s and 80s, they married your mom. Or, if your mom had one or two kids, or she was divorced, they married your mom, they stood up, they went to work, they were the stepdad and kept living life. So this whole notion of like, we don't have to do that. We don't have to be stepdads. We can refuse to do that. And it's almost like, well, the key here is having a family. That's what we're talking about, having a family, gaining wealth by having a husband and a wife and 2 incomes and treating our kids to a long-term future of happiness. That's the only reason I give the numbers is because I think sometimes, sometimes Black men and Black women step out and go, well, we're going to college. And the Black men are like, well, but y'all overweight. And so it's this back and forth picking. When if you really just talk about back in the day in the 80s, if you had a fat uncle, that was not a big a deal. They were at the cookout like everybody else.
It's true.
Each other and have a great life.
You're right.
So,
You're right.
So,
You're
you
right.
know what I mean?
Anybody else want to chime in? All right, here I go digging this hole. All right, so I agree that we shouldn't always have to measure ourselves for 2 white folks. I do agree with that. However, we do live in this system that is the standard, unfortunately. And that doesn't mean that their stuff is all great, because it ain't. When you look at numbers across nations, their stuff is just as bad. And when white folks, since we live in a system that has them in a higher hierarchy than we are, when we look at how messed up they are, we're like always 2 to 3 times worse than them, right? So that's one point. The other point that Tawanda was asking was, well, why does this have to be a gendered conversation, and why do MGTOWs go in on women? The reason why it becomes a gender conversation is because, and you actually said something to one of the points that MGTOWs often say, is the reason why it becomes a gender conversation is because females they always seem to blame men for why stuff is messed up. Now, I think that we need a lot more men organized and men in leadership positions personally, but at the same time, there's female accountability for how we got to where we are today as a collective. Now, you have
that's not our narrative. That's the white woman. We love women.
You're going in and out, so I don't think
sorry, bro.
You're not coming through clearly.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Can you hear me?
We can hear you clear now.
Hear me now?
Yep. Go ahead.
Man, it's so painful, and I have to be honest, and I'll be vulnerable with you guys and say that we carry, and for us to be able to have some in-depth dialogue about how we got here. No, I'll stop because you said something and I'm. Go ahead, brother.
You sure? You can go ahead.
No, I'm gonna be on mute. I'm just gonna listen for a while. Thank you.
You sure? The opportunity is yours. Okay.
I'll be back. Okay. More questions.
Right.
Thank you.
So Tawanda had made a statement. Then I'll let Travis get in. Tawanda had made a statement and said, well, we ain't the ones getting ourselves pregnant. And it's like that's the accountability piece that a lot of folks from MGTOW say, well, women will say, well, we're not the ones getting ourselves pregnant. But then MGTOWs be like, but you got 30-something forms of contraceptives. So, what are you doing to protect your womb?
That doesn't sound ridiculous to you?
Yeah.
Well, not 100%.
I mean, again, that's why I think, first of all, I mean, if I may just say, I think, no disrespect, but I was just looking here at MGTOWs and like what they stand for. But they're irrelevant at the end of the day because, first of all, decisions that benefit us in the long run, regardless of who says what. I don't care if you're a white woman. I don't care if you're an Asian woman. I don't care if you're a black man who doesn't feel like we matter anymore. At the end of the day, we just have to make decisions that work for us. Yes, it's true. We are out here having sex with men who probably have no intentions of being husbands. And do we have to take responsibility for that? Yes, we do. But it shouldn't be because the statistic says this. It shouldn't be because, well, white women are doing this. It should just be that, well, as a woman, I want to make sure that I am making the best decisions for myself, regardless, so that my children, so that my legacy will be here and will be something that I can be proud of. The things that may frustrate Black women is that we're always being compared to someone else as if they are the standard. I don't necessarily look at white folks as the standard. They have their own issues. And here's the thing, I don't deal too much in statistics because we all know that they can be skewed. Like someone just said that, I think they said 40% of white women's children are born out of wedlock. When do we really ever hear that? But we are being villainized because, like, okay, so we have, I think the statistic that came out a few years ago was what, 70% of Black women's children are born out of wedlock? Okay, so if that is the case, then why can't we focus on, in general, how do we make sure that we are giving women the tools to be able to, okay, yes, there's contraceptive, but to be able to choose a partner that's worth something in the end, so that we can focus on making sure that if we're going to have sex, that we're protected. Two, if we're going to have sex and have children, that we have the money to be able to take care of them. Because if we're going to have sex with men who are not going to take care of their kids anyway, then we need to make sure that we can do this ourselves. But if we want to engage Black women on the conversation, how are we going to do so? Well, y'all do this, y'all don't do that, but white women do this, but Asian women do that. And I think it's just such a demeaning conversation to have. And I can see how it would put off a lot of women.
I want to add to that and just say this, and I'm just going to use my family for an example. So I don't know if everybody heard, I just got divorced after 18 years. And the first thing they said to me, you got to get another man to get over another one. And I said, what you mean get another man to get over another one? I'm like, what? I need to heal and get over this situation before I can jump into another situation, because I'm going to jump back into the same thing I just left. So what do you mean? No, I don't want another man. No, I don't want to be having sex with nobody or date nobody. At that, let me be with me first and understand me. So I think and I see all of my family members and the women do it and have these babies by 5, 6 different men because they was taught a piece of man is better than no man at all.
It's the truth.
Validation.
It's the truth.
And I'm like, no, because I'm not doing that. If out of 18 years, you think I'm going to go back and then get a piece of a man? Like, no. You have to look at yourself when you're in these relationships and when you end these relationships. And it's that mentality. And I do speak up. I'm pro healthy relationships, period, in general. I'm not pro woman. I'm not pro man. I'm pro self. Learn who you are so you can be complete when you get into a relationship. Or you're going to keep that vicious cycle going.
Brandon, even with the MGTOW movement, what cracks me up about the whole MGTOW movement is it really started out of men who were getting like, just exorbitant alimony fees, exorbitant child support. And honestly, we know the average child support payment's around $200. So that's not African-American men, right? So to say I'm a part of a movement, I'm angry at Black women, that you didn't even marry her. So you're not paying alimony, you're paying $200. Is my point of why I'm saying we have to kind of dissect why are these men so willing to jump into a movement that has nothing to do with them, right? So just on their level, on just talking about in those relationships, yes, I am willing to tell some of my friends who are overweight, yeah, girl, let's go work out together. And I made a joke. We were watching, I don't know if you guys know T.I. the rapper or whatever, but he basically texted, you know what show I love? Friends. Friends has been off the air like 20 years, but you had all these Black people on Twitter like, hey man, did you see Friends? T.I. told us to watch Friends, and so we watched it. And so there's a joke. It's a website called afrofitness.com. And it's all these Black women losing weight. And I'm very proud of them. They're like losing 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 200 pounds, these crazy amounts of weight. But what did they learn? They got it because somebody famous Black was like, you got to get on this yoga. You got to get on this kickboxing. You got to get on this thing. And so a lot of what we're seeing is like delayed follow the leader. Does that make sense, Brandon? And so that's why I'm a little bit perturbed by the MGTOW movement, because you're joining a movement and you never even married the woman you're having children with. You just have child support issues. Or Absolutely. If you're a woman jumping on, all this fitness, it's only because you're seeing white ladies who did this 10 years earlier. So that's my thing of, it's kind of almost a follow the leader, and that's why I do statistics.
Right. Yeah, and that's part of why I don't really mess with MGTOW, because culturally it does not fit, and there's a lot of racism within MGTOW as well. So it doesn't. I mean, I don't mess with MGTOW. It's kind of counterproductive if you're a Black man to be MGTOW. So anyway, let's transition off MGTOW, because that whole movement is crazy. We did have somebody else who joined the call. Trav, did you want to chime in on anything? Being the only other male here, help me get out this ditch. I'm down here, bro.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Welcome.
Okay, because I can't see anything. This is my first time using the chat deal like this.
Well, we're looking at your Kia steering wheel, so I don't know if you want to flip your camera around or not. But
okay. Let's see. What you looking at now?
Your face. There you go, bro.
Yeah,
Let me see you.
You in there.
I can't see my face. I'm that's cold-blooded.
You look good. You good, bro. You good.
I don't know exactly what I want to put on this. I just wanted to chime in because I read that article and I was really confused about what the lady was trying to say. I wasn't even sure if it was a lady writing the article, really. Or if I thought it was like a rapper that was writing a response to, like a battle rap or something. That's what it seemed like to me. But I'm listening to what you guys are saying, and like I've been married for a long time. I take care of my kids. I homeschool the kids. I got licenses to make a whole bunch of money, but people don't want to do business with me, so I can't tell if I'm not shit or I am shit. I'm confused.
That's right. Tell
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm a pretty good dude, but when I'm out in traffic or I'm out in the stores and different things like that, I can tell that most people, not just Black women, but most people look at me like I ain't shit based on whatever their whatever they've been taught. Like I got a lot of information and I can help a lot of people, but they just assume because I'm classical, I ain't shit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, you know, I dealt with that by going. I dealt with that by leaving the country. You know, I found some people in France and Japan.
Yeah, you just froze on us. So what? Can you hear me, Trav?
Yeah.
Repeat what you just said because you froze out.
I said that when I'm out in the world, people basically treat me like I ain't shit. Right. And I have a lot to offer people, but because they treat me like I ain't shit, we can't get anything accomplished. So, you know, I kind of left the country. I went to Europe and Japan to deal with people who actually treated me with some sort of respect. Like that. So, you know, I'm really just listening to find out what shit is and what shit ain't.
You know, it's funny about him saying that. Whenever I go out, I try to speak or be nice to as many people as possible who are also Black in Austin, because we're supposedly less than 6%, right? And the faces I get back surprise me, from Black women and Black men. Like, why are you speaking to me? And it's almost this very aggressiveness that I can probably feel like some days I'll be like, well, why am I even trying? Why am I even trying to speak to this Black man or this Black woman just by saying hi or being nice, when their first attitude is to just give me a nasty look and be like, why are you speaking to me? So in that position, yes, you know, I would say if you go out on your daily basis and people look at you that way, sometimes you have to chuck it up, because it's just, I've had white ladies hold their purse and I'm like, girl, I'm in a button-up shirt and slacks with my own purse. What am I doing to you? Where am I going with your money?
Yeah.
That don't make no sense. I'm a business owner. What are you doing? You're ridiculous.
You froze up on that last comment.
Exactly.
Maybe it's froze up on my
I
end.
can hear it just fine.
Oh, well, maybe it's just on my end. Okay, that's cool. No, it's like that here in Minnesota too. I'm pretty sure the Minnesota folks that are on the line can attest to that. Like,
I was just about to say, I didn't know you were in Minnesota. I was like, that's just rudeness.
Right. And like I say, I attribute that to everybody, not just Black women. Just to throw that out there. It's like, nah, you ain't shit at all. Whether you have on a suit, slacks, hoodie, baseball cap, or anything, you can't help me. Don't talk to me. And that's the way I feel.
Right. So let me throw a question out, and I'm gonna cycle back to something that was mentioned earlier. I think Starla was talking when she said that, you know, when she was identifying if a man was good for her or if she was good for a man. How do women know if good for a man? Like, how do you know if you're good for that person that you're partnering with?
I would say this, and I'm Starla. I will say this, and I think part of my work is because also, like Brandon, I'm a psychotherapist too, and I think I did my own work as I went through school and as I help others, and I wasn't good for him because I enabled him, because I was a strong woman. We got together when we were 20, so I was, you know, women in my family in general are very strong. And they're just go-getter. And you know what I mean? Entrepreneurs run through my family, college educated, all of that on my dad's side, which I spend most of my time with. So I think just in that, I just started doing stuff. You know, not that he worked, he, you know, helped pay bills. He, you know, if I asked him to do something, he would do it. I think I hindered his growth because he never grew, because he never had to, I don't know, I guess he never really had to do anything but go to work and come home. I did everything else. So I wasn't good for him because I hindered his growth.
We had a lot of people look like they fell off.
I don't know what happened. A bunch of people just drop off. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I agree with what she said. I mean, I had an ex-fiance and he was white and his mom was British, and his parents really hindered his growth. And me being with him, the more we were together, right as we get close to that wedding date, 3 months out, I was like, this is not going to work long term. Our personalities are not going to work. I can't have a relationship where I'm taking care of somebody. And I don't necessarily mean he didn't go to work. He got up and went to work every day, but kind of expected to come home to someone doing the bills, you know, running the house, managing the house in a way that, he should have some input on. So, I'm not going to say he ain't S, but I would say that he had some growing to do as an adult, and he was already older than me. So I just knew, like, hey, this guy's 6 years older than you and still kind of behind. Yeah, men take a little bit longer to grow up, but even in that situation, I knew the signs were there, right? The signs were like, it's time to get on going. So I was just going to piggyback on her point, but somehow you lost all your people. What happened?
It wasn't me. It was the powers that be at YouTube that cut him off. It wasn't me. I'm trying to get him back on, though. What about you, Ginger, or Brianna, or Tawanda? How do you know? The question is, how do you know when you're not good for a man? When you are not good for a man?
Wait, say it again. What was the question? I didn't hear you.
Earlier it was mentioned that Starla had mentioned that she recognized at some point in her marriage that she wasn't good for her man and her man wasn't good for her. My question is, how do you know that you're not good for your man? Like, what are the signs for women to know that you're not a good spouse or good partner?
I mean, I'm divorced, right? So one of the ways that I learned towards the end of my marriage that I didn't respect him. Like, I had absolutely no respect for my husband for, I feel, very legit reasons, but I wouldn't still say that I was a good wife to him because I had no respect for him, and it manifested itself in just different ways. And so in hindsight, yeah, the marriage had to end because I didn't like him. I didn't respect him. I got divorced 5 years ago. And I'm also a psychotherapist, I'll say that too. So I had to do my own work to realize it wasn't about blaming him completely. It was about really understanding the ways in which I contributed to the relationship's demise, and also really the things that I chose to ignore going into the relationship, leading up to the marriage, during the marriage, and during the winding down of the marriage. So yeah, I wouldn't go and say like, oh, I was the perfect wife. No, I just didn't like him. I didn't respect him.
I have to piggyback off of that. I agree. I think that, and I hate to keep bringing up boundaries, but once a lot of boundaries have been crossed, it's very, very hard to come back from that. Whether it be cheating and deciding to still work on the relationship or whatever the case may be, I feel like I've found myself in a position where I thought I had forgiven someone for something that they did. And every 5 seconds, every time they pissed me off, I was bringing it up and throwing it in their face. Like, hey, I'm still here, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, it made me wrong, right? Because I had chosen to move forward in a relationship, forgiving them for that mistake, right? So you're supposed to just move forward. It's once you forgive someone, I mean, you never forget, but it shouldn't come up in every single argument that you have. So at that point, I was bitter in my own relationship. I was in a relationship and I was bitter, and I didn't respect him. I was driving myself nuts because he could be just going out with his friends, right? But I'm sitting at home blowing up his phone, asking this, like, pulling up, and it for me, it was too much, right? So at that point, he wasn't doing anything wrong, but I couldn't get past the past mistakes. And so maybe the forgiveness just wasn't there. So it was just like, at that point in time, it was just like, hey, I know you've been trying to do better. I can't get past this. I have to move on. This isn't going to work, and that might not have been all of him. Well, yeah, he made the mistake, but I can't forgive you for it either, and I don't respect you. And a lot of relationships, people say like, oh, well, if you work on it hard enough, you can come back from it, you can come back. But the reality is 80% of relationships who go through traumatic experience do not come back. They just are, so that the codependency is there to the point where they really don't know how to separate, But I do believe that once trust is lost, it's very hard on both sides, right? For it to rekindle, if it ever does.
I just want to finish up what I was saying as far as and answer that question. This is Starla again about how do you know if you're not good for him? He done became codependent on me now because instead of being with a mate, I had another kid. It was essentially I was raising him. So I don't feel like he he couldn't and he don't have the ability. I felt like I enabled him because of my own strength and my own things that I was doing in the relationship that caused him to take the back seat.
You guys, I have to drop off. I'm so sorry.
No, thank you for your contribution tonight, and we see what you're doing, all the good work. I'll keep sharing your stuff. And
thank you, Brandon. Thank you. And it was so nice meeting you guys and chatting with you guys. I really appreciate it.
Same
Have a good night.
Bye. Good night.
Okay. Any other input on how do you know when you're not good for a man, when you are not good for a man? No? Okay. That's cool too. Any other comments? I can just keep throwing out questions. I got questions for days. Any other comments?
I just have one, and it's mostly about the article. I didn't get any of what you got from it. And so it's...
You're not supposed to. You're a female.
I'm a woman. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of wild to me that you felt so... Or not just you, because I have seen this like come up with other people, even with some women too. But it almost reminds me of how like Republicans, the whole like personal responsibility and pull yourself up by your bootstrap. I think the author spoke about an incident that hurt her. And she also spoke about how she shares that hurt with a lot of other Black women. And I kind of don't know how it turned into this whole thing.
I got confused because I'm like, was you with him a year? Was you ever with him? Well, like, you hurt? I'm a little bit confused. And if you was with him a year, that was how many years ago? I don't know.
Oh, we know people who get stuck on something. I've met people at church who you would have thought they got divorced last year, and you talk to them. Yeah, it was 10 years ago. You like, damn, you need to get some counseling. And that's part of why I get mad about the big towel movement. It's grown men who are like, I'm so mad at Betty. Betty divorced you like 15 years ago. You don't even owe no more child support. What's going on, man? I don't know. I get hyped on that because sometimes things happen, but we don't stay there like a campground. We're supposed to go ahead and move on.
Right.
Like you don't go, man, somebody hurt me and I'm going to sit here in it because I'm pissed. Which, healing times are different for everybody. I'm not going to sit here and say you should be over it 90 days, but a lot of times what happens in that friend zone relationship or the lady is friend zone, they're given all this attention and overcommitment and hours of their life and waiting on somebody to choose them and validate them. And when it doesn't happen, they are bitter. So when I read the article, I honestly thought it was somebody that had not been with the person. They were on the sidelines hoping and doing all this hoping and all this wishing. And it could even been a man. Yeah. If you really want to be honest, there are many dudes right now angry saying, I was nice to you. I treated you nice. I mean, there's a meme where this woman showed where this guy from high school said, how's it feel to be a single mom? And she's like, damn, where's that from? I liked you back in high school and you still didn't get, like this is years later and this man is taking his time to go on this woman's Facebook to say this horribleness. So I looked at the article as it was somebody on the sidelines, not even in the relationship. But
I looked at the article like it was self-working. When Jay-Z's, album came out, I guess, a week ago or over the weekend, right? I looked like a lot of people were saying, well, Beyonce is going through all this stuff. And I think one of my friends even said, does it mean that she's a broken woman as well? And so we had that whole debate. And I looked at the article as just as a way for her to, I guess, jump on the bandwagon of, I'm a broken woman too, and this is why, and this is how you broke me, and this is all your fault. And I read the article and I just sort of rolled my eyes because I think it just enables other women not to take responsibility for their roles. Right. Like one of the, I think on my comment that I left on Brandon's post was just simply that we will hear a man tell us, no, I'm not interested, or he will act in that way, But then we'll be like, hey, game on. It's a challenge. I'm going to break you. I'm going to make you love me. Yep. And when he dogs us out, it's like, oh my God, you're such a dog and you're so this. And like, he told us from the beginning who he was. We just didn't want to listen. And so I specialize in love addiction, and I specialize in women who've had narcissistic and emotional abusive partners. And it's like, the first thing, like, I would say like probably like the second session, I would let them know, look, what this is not going to be is a man bashing session, because you are here because of the reasons that, or the things that you may have allowed, not because of him, because he's not here. This isn't couples therapy. So I think when I read the article, I was a little frustrated, because I think it's articles like this that will have women reading the background and thinking, yes, it's his fault, and it's, you know, and he's the problem, and I'm not the problem. I was being the supportive person. Look, we can ride that until our deathbeds. It will not change that there are certain people out there who will not mean us well. We have to stand up and say to ourselves, okay, so you know what? I don't deserve this, and I shouldn't allow certain behavior into my life, but we still do. But yet we want a cookie because we're helping some man get from A to B, and it's like, that's not our job. But somehow we think that we should get a gold medal for it. I'm like, all we're getting is just more notches that'll just send us to hell, or just send us to our deathbeds. And that's probably the most frustrating thing for me to like, as a therapist, reading that article.
Ginger, I was going to say, is it common for you? You probably hear it more than often. And I'm just saying, out of people I know who fell in these kind of weird friend zone traps, they had to bash the person to feel better about themselves. Like, they're bashing that person. Like, that person is terrible, for them to kind of let it go. Instead of saying, he could be a nice guy. I mean, because sometimes it's not, it's a dog guy. Sometimes it's they were in love with someone who did not choose them and went and chose someone else. Yeah. So I just see a lot of women bashing someone who may not be a horrible person. You just didn't get what you wanted out of the situation.
Well,
does that make sense?
Yeah, in psychotherapy, like and Brandon could probably speak to this too, like we call that splitting. Like, instead of looking at it like, okay, so this person's just not interested. It's a gray area, right? But what we end up doing is it's a very black and white thing. So we split the person and we say, well, you're the devil and I'm the angel. I'm the good person. I wanted to love you. You didn't want to love me back. So therefore, you're the devil and you're the evil one in this situation, instead of saying, hey, there's a gray area. I liked him. He didn't like me back. Let me move on. But instead of doing that, we just kind of sit there. We try to villainize the person instead of looking at our own role in the situation. And people like that do tend to continue doing the same thing because they're just unable to see their own role in it. And of course, there are extremes to it, like with Axis 2 personality disorder people. But yeah, like, unless someone pulls them aside and checks them and says, look, like, everybody who you like is not going to like you, and that is okay. But it is that feeling of rejection that they're holding on to, and instead of going to a therapist or maybe talking to someone who can help them sort through those feelings, they just keep on going. But what's even deeper is that you kind of have to look at, well, what kind of situation in terms of rejection do I keep recreating if this is something that I keep on getting involved in? So it's almost like if it was a dad that wasn't there, you felt rejected or abandoned, and therefore you keep on seeking a male partner that kind of recreates the situation because all you want to do is go back to the situation so that you can feel like you mastered it. There's a whole lot more going on in that situation, but instead we write articles like these that will kind of support us and make us feel like we're right instead of kind of looking at ourselves. So yeah, I see it a lot. But by the time they get to me, I mean, they're way far gone. I'm talking about like people are ready to like kill themselves or suicidal. They're really ready to jump over the deep end, literally, because of the rejection and because it's so deep. So it really does go farther than, you know, someone friend zoned me. It goes as far as, you know, someone in the 2 years that they were with the person never, ever, ever took them out to like a formal date or dinner. Or it can look like they always paid the rent. The person never, ever once paid rent. The person always had like a harem of women around them and was having sex with at least 2 of those women. But they see the signs and they never say to themselves, well, okay, so this doesn't really make sense. Why am I with this person? But they just keep on thinking that if I pay the rent, if I keep on taking them out, if I keep on being this doormat, they will see that I love them. that person. It's about them and their history and what allows them to keep doing it.
I was going to say, I have a friend, he's always saying when not to mock or minimize friend zone or not say it's as bad as what you're talking about, but a lot of times when people like someone, instead of having the courage to go up to the front door, they try to go to the side door. Like, look at all these nice things I'm doing for you. Look how well I'm treating you. Look how I'm doing all these things for you. You should acknowledge me for being a good boy or good girl and give me the love and affection I want from you. And so I never want to mock people who are saying they're in the friend zone, because they did attempt to do something, but they just didn't come to the front door with honesty, right? So they're trying to come to the side and guilt you into it.
I would look at that and I would say that that person who was coming through the side door, a lot of people don't want to hear it like this, but they were just trying to control the situation. Because whether they didn't have the courage to come through the front door or they felt that it was easier for them to control the person by coming through the side door, it's really about control. If a guy comes through my side door, I'm going to feel ambushed, right? If he knows I'm not ready for a relationship, or he kind of knows like I'm not in that space where I would choose him, but he decides to just kind of show up to my house on a Saturday morning, like, okay, let me go take your car for oil change or something like that, knowing that he has ulterior motives, knowing that I'm probably not going to choose him or want to be with him, he's really just trying to control the situation, not necessarily play the good guy or come through the side door. That's, I mean, and I know because like, it's toxic behavior at the end of the day. So you do have the genuinely nice guys who probably don't know that the woman, who probably don't know that the woman isn't interested in them, but they just still, I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about the guys who, they're coming through the side door knowing that you probably are not interested in them, or the women who do this, and they're trying to control the situation by being nice, knowing that they have ulterior motives. And then when the person doesn't choose them, that person now becomes the evil person. And that's not, it's not a healthy way. It's not healthy for that person. And it's especially not healthy for you to do it.
So I respect all the things you guys brought up, but I feel like there's a lot of projection onto this article that just doesn't seem to be there. So the story is of Jay-Z, who did in fact was the bad guy. Like, he did cheat on his wife. He apologized for causing his miscarriages. And so this lady writes an article about how, like, I feel that in my last relationship, I had a man that I was committed to who treated me like shit, and except for I didn't stick through it. And now I see Beyonce and Jay made it to their 444 where they're happy and they're working on their relationship and they have a big redemption of their love and all this other shit. And I'm sad about how my situation turned up. I don't know how this then became, wow, women always think niggas ain't shit. And so maybe I came into this thinking like literally were talking about the article, but I just feel like, I don't know, there's just so much projection onto this girl's story and I don't know where it's coming from.
I can't say that for me, it's definitely not about projection. I think for me, it's about my experience professionally in terms of what I see all the time. Like, this article isn't the first article of its kind to be put out there. I think articles like this exist all over the place. And the people who write these articles show up in my office every single day. And so for me, I know that I'm not projecting. I can only speak based on my professional experience because I see these women every single day. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we do talk about, well, okay, so this person did this and I accepted this over and over and over and over and over again. And the expectation that we somehow, like, yes, of course it's hurtful, right? Like, it's super hurtful that this happened to her, and I get that part. But the part that does not help is when we rally behind it and we're like, yes, girl, like, that's the stuff that gets us in trouble. So I'm just speaking about it from a professional standpoint because it's hard to get behind someone who's not able to really see their role in it. So that's the perspective that I'm taking.
Exactly. And that's the same perspective I took, because not for me, it's professional and it's personal. Because believe me, my inbox is flooded with females. They're always asking me questions. Tawanda, I've even talked to you about your friend and her relationship. Like I get bombarded with this all the time. So when I see articles like this, I'm like, man, this just contributes to the narrative of how dysfunctional Black relationships are, but how black females in particular don't necessarily connect what went wrong to themselves a lot of the times. And that's where I'm coming from, is there's a lot of and that's why when I had originally posted, and I said there's a lot of missing pieces, because she's not really telling, you know, her side, like what didn't work for her. She talked more in reference to the album and what the guy did not fulfill for her and her grief, which is valid, and she probably did go through all of that stuff. But there's also her side of the story that she contributed as well that often does not get brought up.
Yep, that's very true. And I think that when you've heard enough of these stories, you kind of know the parts that are missing, right? And you understand that there's always three sides to a story. There's his side, her side, and the truth.
Right.
And so, like, we just have to figure out what side are we hearing, right? So, you know, definitely it's not my intention to come across like we're projecting or blaming her, but our power is rooted in owning our role when something like this happens to us as women. Like, I can't tell you just like how many women like I have like sitting around 2 years, 3 years waiting to get over someone, waiting for that person to come back and give them closure. Yeah, that's just not gonna happen. It doesn't exist, right? You cannot give me closure because you don't even know why you did what you did to me. So that's kind of like, that's really like my perspective on the whole situation, because I just see when women, they can't see their own way in it. And but they write articles, and then like we don't hold each other accountable. We want to just be like, oh yes, girl, shit, and this is and the third, and it's like, that's not gonna help you get over this. That's not gonna help you get over this in a really clean, healthy way. That's gonna leave you happy, healthy, and whole again.
Absolutely. I was actually gonna reach out to her on Twitter. I might still do it and see if I can talk to her, because I got a strong kind of feeling that this ain't the first dude that's hurt her. And that was just kind of a tipping point for her to hear whatever lyrics or whatever song she listened to spark her to write about it. Because when people get triggered like that, that's usually built up experiences that have happened. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Have you ever read her blog? Because she writes a lot. And so
this is my first time. This is my first time ever seeing anything from her.
Oh, okay, so I also think I'm coming into her story with the context of her previous writings. And so maybe that's also why I was kind of like, what is everyone talking about? But yeah, she speaks about that particular relationship extensively, and, you know, some of the abuse that she endured in it. And, you know, I don't know if she's over it. I don't know her, and I'm not a professional, so, but I don't think it was on some black man ain't shit. I think it was on some, this black man treated me like shit. And clearly there are other women who have dealt with it, including Beyonce. That's what I got from the article.
Sure.
Well, I think the article probably is, you know, what you're getting from it, Tawanda, is probably accurate. But what has happened is, as it's been viraled, you know, and shared, people are championing the article for what we were talking about kind of tonight. Right. So like, you may have read her backstory, and I'd actually want to go see her blog now because of this conversation. But we're relating it to what we see in the community per se, right? Like, we're seeing a lot of people who are over-investing, over-committing to somebody who's clearly said, you know, and I can give an example of, and then he's actually a half black guy. He has 8 babies that are all the same age. And as you talk to each girl, like, some of them are white girls, some of them are black girls, and you're like, they knew. And I'm not even, and some of these girls are good. I'm not trying to say good or they're better than anybody else, but like, come from good families, going to school, and girl, I just, you know, I thought he was going to change. And everybody's like, but you all knew about each other. There's 8 of you pregnant at one time, and you're not trash people. And I think sometimes we just assume that's the projects. No. This is happening in middle-class suburbs in America. And so, even be as deep as where we're going, but that's where we went in the conversation. It's kind of how I looked at it, right? Because I know a guy, he's not a horrible person, but I think he's a super manipulator. But all these women, as you talk to them, we have this narrative where it's like, well, he changed overnight. No, he didn't. Oh, y'all were pregnant at the same time. How did this person magically become an evil person overnight? And you guys all got pregnant at the same time. And so I think that's the accountability people are saying, right? Like, I know he's got other people, but I refuse to let go of this position I have, right? I've got his pinky toe, and I'm going to hold it until he gives me his hand. And it's like, no, that doesn't work that way, right?
Like Peter Gunn does baby moms. I get that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? Just reckless behavior, but we're championing it because we're like, bad, that's bad. You know? So
say that again. I'm sorry. That Peter Gunn's baby mamas.
No, they're insane. I think they have like mental challenges.
Oh my God.
How many is it? I'm not very into that hip hop and love show, but
it's got like 12 kids now, I think.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
But he cheated on his his wife was actually his side chick.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But so he had a long-term girlfriend, but he married the side chick because the side chick was gonna leave. And then his long-term girlfriend, I guess, became the side chick, even though she had been there for a while. It's wild. It's entertaining though.
But doesn't that listen? They're getting their importance from being Peter Gunn's baby mama. Think about that.
Yeah, it's sad.
Who are these women any other day in their life?
And I think that goes back to like what we started in the conversation about like what is it that we're teaching men and women about what it means to be masculine or feminine, or what it means to be desirable, or you know, the right type of woman, because clearly the messaging is getting crossed.
Yeah. And it's
for
like
sure.
Big booty, small waist, and big titties. This is what a woman is. This is what a woman should look like. And it's like, that's not realistic, because when she gets 60 and 70 years old, 50, she ain't gonna 40. She ain't gonna look like that unless you got the money to keep it up.
Yeah. Well, even the whole investing thing. I know a man and a woman that were dating, they were living together. He literally moves out, and I think not even a year and a month later, he had married another person.
See,
Jesus.
Met her out of the blue, and the girl she literally had high standards. She was cut from a great family, and she didn't take no mess, and he married her. And everybody was like, you were with this other girl for 2 years, giving her crap, running her through the dirt. I mean, like, what in your mindset told you that other woman was valuable, right? But at some point, you also got to hold her accountable for saying you held on a little too long, right?
And you allowed it to happen, though, and that's you know, you got to take ownership, and that's my position always. And I'm happy that I did the work on myself, you know, out of my relationship, because you got to take ownership. You had a part in that relationship, in that situation, whether you allowed it to happen, whether you put a blind eye, where you turned the cheek, something. You had a part as well.
Wow. Is this what people look? Is this what people see when I'm walking through the grocery store? 8 baby mamas.
If you're tall, yes. If you're a tall man, they're like, look at him walking by. I mean, I've been on dates with people where they go, you don't have any children at all.
Oh yeah, that happens
never
to
been
me all the time.
Where is this coming
like, I know
from?
how to use condoms. What is wrong with you?
This is crazy.
Exactly.
Like, you know, he's like, I've had women lie about having babies. I'm like, why would I lie about something so intense?
Right.
You're gonna find out, but that's what people are dealing with. That's what people are dealing with.
I based on the last 5 minutes, I'm a unicorn. I don't even exist.
You really don't. Somebody told me today that there are no good black men. I'm like, yes, they are. Is it who are you? I guess to me, who are you attracting? You know what I mean? I was like, I know a lot of strong, good black men. You know what I mean? So it's like, who are you attracting to you to say there ain't no good black men?
Okay, and I always say, look at how not saying how they dress, but I hate to say this. I was in a military town, and I had a ton of friends with strong black dads. Strong black military dads who were, you know, there when they could be, you know, had people going picking them up from school, being a part of practices. And when I hear people say, well, there ain't no good whatever, and I'm like, wait a minute, let's re-examine that. How are you dressing? And I know people hate when I say that, but how are you dressing? Where are you going? What environments are you?
Yep.
If you're
I can't agree with any of that.
Shack, if you're at Chief Shack in the back and it's a raggedy nightclub and everybody hollering at you, I'm sorry. Who told you to go over there?
Yep.
Who told you to go to that place? And who told you to dress that way? And I know people hate that when I talk about the way people dress, but it is a part of the truth. I mean, it just is. If you want to walk out and do an Amber Rose walk, I mean, you can do that.
Right.
But trust and believe people are going to treat you a certain type of way.
But they shouldn't. That doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying for them to assault you or anything like that or anything dangerous. I'm just saying if there is and I'll give an example. I have a friend. I have two friends, and they both got married to really nice girls. But before that, they both were like, I like trashy girls. And we laugh. We're like, why y'all like trashy women? They're like, they're exciting. They get things done. So, yes, there are some women who are dressing that way that aren't bad people. But in that guy's mind, she's trashy, exciting, you know, and it was funny. But I think that doesn't entitle them to treat you disrespectfully at all. But there's something to be said of, and I know people talk about respectability politics, but I think when you carry yourself somewhere, even when you go to work, you want people to address you in a respectful manner.
I agree. I just don't think it should be contingent on something as shallow as what I'm wearing. Like, and I think women get the brunt of that too. It's like, you know, men are like, oh, why are you in coochie cutters? Because he was looking, and also
it was hot outside.
It was hot outside. Like, just, I don't know. That's a whole different conversation. Like, Brandon wants to talk about accountability. Somebody needs to get Rob Kardashian, have him take some accountability. Because you don't get with a woman like Black China and then get surprised when you're scammed. But whatever.
That's true. That is true. And
so get your brethren.
Well, wait, one, Rob Kardashian is not a black man, so he ain't my brethren. Two, I agree with what Snoop Dogg said. She found a sucker and he got licked, and that's what happened. I mean, those dudes are out there, and that's a part of the game. And there are those, you know, more trashy girls or whatever term you want to use. And yes, we do like trashy girls to a certain extent, but we don't want to have trashy wives. So that's a men thing.
What, didn't they get married?
Huh?
I agree with that.
Did they get married? Did Robin try to get married?
No, they were like engaged and they broke up, and it's a whole big dramatic situation.
I feel like Tawanda has a blog I need to follow. That's what
I used to.
Tawanda is a ninja out here in the social game. She's got all types of stuff that she don't want people to know about.
That's my cue. Got work in the morning. Have a great night.
Well, you have fun and make sure they're not treating you bad over there. All right.
Yeah, I'll try. Bye. Thanks for having me.
Bye, Tawanda. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. But yeah, I don't even want to talk about Black China situation. When you know what you're signing up for, you shouldn't be surprised when it comes up. And we can't sit here and act like there aren't trashy women, and we can't sit out here and act like there aren't trashy dudes or dudes that are just bums.
Dusty Jeromes.
Yeah, dusty dudes. There are dusty dudes, and there are just ain't about nothing females at the end of the day. And that's and we have to be honest about that. And when we're picking our partners, where do they fit on that scale? As men, we do like slutty women. I'm not gonna lie. I love a slutty woman, but I'm not trying to wife no slutty chick. Now, if she has slutty tendencies, that might be a different thing. But if she's slutty, like, you know, majority of her time, no dude wants to wife that.
But guess what happens? She has a kid. And then now you're in this cycle of you have to be connected to that person.
Right.
And that's where people don't want to take accountability on their side.
Right. As the men, because you knew what you were signing up for when you messed with her and you got caught up. And that happens. All the time. So, and then vice versa for females who get with bummy dudes, and then they get on them. That happens all the time, but then they blame the men for being bummy. It's like you knew what he was about. He played his hand. He showed you his cards from the get-go, and you tried to change him because culturally you've been conditioned to change men, and that man doesn't change, and then you're mad. And I see that happen a lot. I've seen it happen in my family. I've seen it happen with some good friends of mine. It's like you keep trying to change these dudes that they showed you they wasn't about nothing. They may have showed you some potential, but they weren't putting anything in action. And you bought into the hype, and then you got caught, you know, on the tail end of the situation. So that happens a lot.
You know, the murder of that girl, that Makiva Jenkins.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like if you got to force a dude that you're going from homeless to 6 figures in 2 years, and you had to force homeboy to get a barbershop license, get a barber license. Not one, but he had a set of twins with some woman on the side and another baby with her.
What was that?
It's a lady, Makiva Jenkins. This black dude clearly is so dusty. He hasn't watched any crime network. And his wife goes to the door at 2 o'clock in the morning and magically is shot. And they don't shoot anybody else in the house. They don't take any other money and leave. That's like 101 crime TV. Everybody's spouse gets caught. But at the end of the day, I'm not blaming her because it's sad that she has died, but there was signs every step of the way that this guy she's dragging for dear life, he's getting a girl pregnant not once but twice. Now has 3 kids with her. He's doesn't refuse to like improve himself. If you're going from homeless to 6 figures, seminars together, we should be at apartment investing seminars together. We should be going to learn how to do SEO together. We should be in this so deep that like people can't tell us apart. We're like hip to hip building our business. And I see that with communities where it's a construction company or a husband company, a painting company, and they work together. This was an example of a man not working with her, actually working against her, and she refused to let go. I mean, even till a couple of days before she was murdered, she had pictures of her. I'm so proud of my husband, gassing this guy up who just was dusty. I mean, it's sad.
Wow.
Don't be dusty.
I like that song that King Raised a Man. That song is so real. If you really sit and listen to the lyrics, and I think us as women
don't have babies.
We want to raise them instead of just him being complete and I being complete, and we come together. We want, I can help you. I can help you along. I can do this for you. I can do, and you enable them. And I'm speaking to my relationship, my 18th year, because, and I have to own that part of it. If I don't own that part, I'm gonna walk into another relationship doing the same. And you can't raise nobody. Yeah.
All right, what we got? We still at 5%.
I am laughing at your friend T over here with his son card. Don't be dusty. Don't have babies. Don't. You know, the best thing a guy can do, and I have a nephew that's 24, and I tell him he's out here chasing all these girls. I'm like, the best thing you can do for yourself is finish that community college certificate. Go get you a nice place to stay of yourself. Do some travel. Guess what? The women will always be there.
Say that again.
You're a good-looking young black guy.
Again, I'm sitting with my 13-year-old. We listening.
He's 13. He like, man, Dad, if you don't get me off camera. But look, as long as you get your certificate, get you a skill, I promise you, a real skill. Have your money together. Have your own place. I'm not talking about roommates. I'm talking about your own place. And be a well put together man. There will always be opportunities, and there will always be ways.
Yep.
You can chase ladies anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And same with the ladies. True. You can chase a man anytime. Focus.
Brandon's like, no, that's not true. No.
no, I agree. No, I agree to a certain extent, because what ends up happening though, because I see a lot of dudes get into that trap too, is when they do get to that level where they are trying to be in relationships, women expect them to know how to be in relationships, but they ain't had no practice. So one thing that I say is, when you are engaging in relationships at that young age, make sure you're doing it in a safe way and that you're learning from, dealing with multiple women. You ain't got to sleep with all of them to learn something from them, but you should get practice, because women expect men to know how to be in relationships. But if you ain't had no practice, then you kind of left in a bad situation. And that happens a lot. And that's where you get a lot of dudes like the MGTOW out dudes who kind of just join in the group because they ain't had no practice. And they don't know how to be in relationships, and then they start hiring pickup artists to help them get game and stuff like that, stuff that they should have learned in their 20s, but they don't get it.
Right. Yeah, I can see that too.
So it's kind of a catch-22, but that goes back to both socializing men and women, and being very conscious about that, because a lot of females just expect men to know how to be men, and they never had none of that sexual experience or that intimate experience in relationships. And then they get caught up in a situation that's like, you ain't no man, and you don't know how to do this. Well, he ain't had no practice. He been studying. He's an engineer. He's making 6 figures, and he's a nerd, and he ain't got no game. Right. And then the dude who all he's done is focus on game, he gets the girl early on because he knows how to talk to him. He knows how to lay it down in bed. He knows how to, give them a little bit of status.
And then you looking back at him. 2 things. You're talking about 2 things.
Okay.
Great. So I'm going to say with the engineer guy, it doesn't mean he's not well-rounded.
It doesn't.
Just because he's an engineer and he's studied all the time, if he's traveled, if he's had relationships while at work and in play and around with people, he can still be a well-rounded guy. Now, is he going to be as experienced as Romeo, who's old and 30 now, he done got 4 kids, and he's Mr. Rico Suave? Of course, Mr. Rico Suave running around talking to all these women. But at the end of the day, I'm in Austin, Texas, and we have a lot of engineers here who are great guys. nice guys, maybe only had 1 or 2 girlfriends. I'd much rather take him than Rico Suave with 4 kids. I'd rather take inexperienced a little bit than, you know, I don't know how many times you've been down to Miami. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, there we go in our values. We're not valuing that he studied and he put in the work and he put in time to build himself up as a man. Right. We're valuing smoothness, and that's
like China.
And I agree with you because it makes you feel good in the short term, but in the long term, it puts you in a bad situation. Go ahead, Trav.
I hear you. I'm just saying.
I agree with you. I think you're right on point. Go ahead, Trav. I think you were gonna say something.
Oh no, I was just telling my son because he's in the sports, and you know he's out at the track. He run track, and now he's winning. So all the little girls out there, you know, they own him right now, and I'm trying to explain to him that, you know, people are looking at him right now like he's doing things that he's not doing. I've been walked up. One little girl, 14 years old, she grabbed his butt. I was standing right there, right? And he looked at me like, "What's going on?" I said, "You just been molested," you know. Right. So I'm. It's funny because we kind of going through this. Like, I'm not going through it personally in my relationship, but as my son is getting older, you know, he'll be 14 years old next month, and you know, this conversation is. I hope it's gonna help him. You know, I gotta straighten some of it out for him, but you know, these are the things that he needs to understand because he's dealing with some dudes right now who they have no training, and he is following them. And so he like going on 14 talking about, "Hey girl, come here." Like, ask the girls what do they like and what they don't like. And then, you know, you can be less irritating, right? And they asked, "How did I catch my wife?" Right? They said, "You ain't got no game. How do you catch your wife?" I said, "I told the truth."
Right.
I told the truth. Right. And then one of the little dudes, I mean, like 12 years old, he was like, "So you told your wife you ain't got no money and you ain't got no car?" I was like, "Look, man, I told the truth. That's what I did. And she happened to be the right person for who I was. And that's why we've been together for 30 years. Right. So I'm trying to explain to my son that he doesn't need to follow those guys because that's going to get you into a bunch of trouble. And this conversation right here, like this, it can start at 12. Like, he already acting like an ain't shit dude, but he listening to some other guys training.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And the training needs to go on both ends, and that's why I mentioned the accountability piece and how important it is for other females to address other females and men address other men, because we have to start socializing our children better. Because like your 14-year-old son, I don't do too much counseling anymore, but I just got done doing counseling in 2 different high schools. And man, it's a whole different ball game from when I was in high school 10 years ago. 12 years ago. It's a whole different ball game. And the girls are a lot more aggressive now. Like, you know, the incident that happened with your son, that is pretty tame compared to some of the stuff that I've heard and seen with my own eyes at that level. So I mean, they're dealing with stuff that, I mean, they're not even ready for, and we're not even ready to really talk to them because we've never seen it like this. We've never seen social media and the access they have to girls from all across the city. I had clients, they had girlfriends, and so we're in the Twin Cities. They had girlfriends in St. Paul, some of the surrounding suburbs, and they would meet all these chicks at the Mall of America. I'm just like, how do you have all these girls? They don't know nothing about each other. Wow. And he's like, man, I connected with all of them on Snapchat. I'm just like, dang, like that's crazy. I've never experienced anything like that. But his approach is still the same, and it's going to leave him in that, oh, he ain't nothing, because he's cycling through all these girls, and he's not necessarily facilitating relationships with them. He's just trying to get something out of each one of them. So
exactly,
yeah.
And
so
keep in mind, he's been homeschooled since 4th grade. So even though he hasn't been, in that situation of a elementary school since 4th grade, like he's going to the 9th grade next year, they still get you. You know what I mean? They still get you. and even at the track meets, he trying to spin off away from me, some girls, and I'm like, look, man, you keep your hands to yourself. You know, don't be talking crazy, because I know some of these daddies out here, and if they punch you, I'm gonna have to punch them, and then it's gonna be a different thing, right? So don't be, you know, act appropriate. You know how to act appropriate. You have a good example of what a relationship is. You know what I mean? That's why I say I'm a unicorn. So don't go out here doing these things that you don't see me do. But he wants to go do those things, even though, you know, I don't promote that stuff, you know.
I love that you just said that whole part, especially about you taking him out of school around 4th grade. They actually build prisons based off the test scores and reading levels in 4th and 5th grade of Black boys.
Are you serious?
And what happens, what people don't really pay attention to is, I remember in 4th grade, I actually got to go to a private school, but in 4th and 5th grade, that's when the Asian families start stepping into tutoring. And that's when the white families start stepping into tutoring. But Black families don't step in on the tutoring then. And so it's something, you know, there's like 100,000 right now Black families who are homeschooling. So it's growing, but I think that's so important that you pulled him out of school in that point, because he would have been around people many more years of them feeling like not adequately reading, not adequately keeping up in classrooms, so more acting out, more being silly. So by the time you put him back in 9th grade, some of these Black boys and girls, and so what do they have to focus on? Not school. So they're focusing on each other, and they're focusing on behavior that's, you know, just not appropriate. So it just, but yeah, as soon as Brandon said he does counseling in high schools, I was like, yeah, I did stuff at my church, and a lot of the parents were like, I just pulled my daughter out because it's just too much. It's absolutely too much. So I'm glad you homeschooled.
Right. Same situation. That's why I understand those statistics, and I did a lot of research in between now and 2003 is pretty much when I kind of took myself out the system. You know, again, because of that, going outside and constantly being bombarded with the "you ain't shit." So I got into the situation of, why are you calling me not shit? Because I'm the shit. You don't understand who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I understand the prison to the preschool, the prison pipeline in 3rd grade and the prisons, and, you know, and I'm looking at some of the other kids that are, you know, out at the track meets, and you can tell that with some of the parents like that sports, that's all they focus on. I mean, 4 years old out there yelling at kids, you know, hurry up, you know, like, so, you know, I'm just like, the ain't shit part. Like, some of us are valuable,
Right.
and because you look at us like we ain't shit, like, you miss a lot. But I understand, you know, um protecting yourself against what had happened to you before. And I'm not looking for, like, I can be in the grocery store, and because I don't really go nowhere, so grocery store is my examples all the time, right? I'll be in the grocery store and I'll be like, excuse me, and no response, excuse me, no response, and then turn around and they be like, and I'm like, I didn't even want to talk to you, I just wanted to get to the catch up, you're in the way, you know what I mean? So it's a lot of trauma, I guess, and clearly I'm no doctor or nothing like that, but I'm just like, look, if you stop and have a conversation with me, I do have some information for you, like that,
Right.
you know.
You know, today I had a conversation with my daughter. She's 15, she'll be 16. And I have a 10-year-old son and a 22-year-old. But she wanted to know why I divorced her dad. And I said, you know what, honey? I said, the things that went on with me and your dad is between us. I was like, and I never want to tell you anything negative about your father, because I always want you to love him and respect him for how he treats you and the relationship y'all have, and not think of him any other way. So she was like, well, Mom, were you, in an abusive relationship? I said, yes, the relationship was abusive, but it was not just him. It was both of us. We was not good together, but he is a good man. And I feel like as women, we need to teach our daughters, just because something don't work for us, that don't mean tell your daughter that, oh, he a bad man, or he did me wrong. I could be, I'm crying and hurt. You can't do that. You cannot do that, because that don't mean that's going to be her experience. And so you don't want to implant though that negativity as a nigga ain't shit in her head. You want to plant, listen, this is a relationship and this is what happens in relationships, and either you're going to work it out, and if you can't, then you have to move on and do what's best for you. And then for my son in the school situation, I had the reverse effect because I sent him to magnet schools, public magnet schools, but like engineering schools. So my thing be, he do awesome in all the test scores, everything. He always do nationwide, statewide high scores. But in the classroom, the teachers want to downplay him and treat him like he's a statistic black young boy. And I'm always in the schools fighting like, no, this is not my son. You're not about to treat him like that. You're going to treat him like he has a mother and he has a father. And he's not running around in trouble. I mean, they will try to send him referrals. No, don't you send no referral home. If you haven't called and communicated with me and told me anything, don't you send me nothing home saying my son did something. So I think as parents, we have to also stand up and be involved in the school. Be involved in the education system. Be on the PTA. And we're not doing that no more in the Black communities.
Yeah, I did that. I tried to go to the school. I said, hey, if my son is a problem, I got time. I'll come sit in this class every day. And they said, well, you can come on Tuesday between 8:30 and 9. And when I got there, they gave me a referral. I took a picture of him to say, hey, this is what you look like. And I swear to God, they sent me a referral. And they was like, listen, taking pictures in the class is inappropriate. You need to delete your camera. You need to have releases. And I'm like, you know what? I really got a referral. They put it on referral paper too.
Wow.
Wow. And that's the levels of crap we got to go through just to be involved in the education of our children. Sadly, that level of education. So real quick, I want to be respectful of folks' time. We already went over time, but Ginger and Che, y'all have been pretty quiet over the last few minutes. Any little tidbits or things that either one of you would like to add?
I know. I've just been sitting here listening. So it's been a good conversation. I've learned a lot. So thank you for hosting and having this.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. Anything from you, Che? Like you washing dishes or folding clothes or something up in there? You working?
No. I'm packing my son up.
Packing.
So go to camp.
Your son be on the go. Man, I'm trying to get like him. Every time I see a photo of your child, he is in a different country, in a different zip code. That boy be on the go.
Yeah.
Where's he going this time? There you go in the background. What's up, man? Get big and stuff. Hi, sir.
This time he's going to Camp Mendocino. It's up Northern California.
Okay.
Okay.
Very fine.
So, hi, Trav.
Hey,
Cool, man.
It's the whole thing is interesting for me when I read the piece, because I have to read it before I do anything else. For me personally, it was very reflective of like past relationships, and a lot of it, what everybody has said, is really correct. Like part of it is your own internal growth that you have to decide when you decide, you have to personally decide when you don't want to deal with that. Like when you're tired of that type of person in your life, and what do you do inside? Like who are you as a person to attract those kind of things? And a lot of it is a huge shift in like confidence and which not. And some of it is conscious decision making. Like, am I choosing this person because this was easy and convenient because I don't have to, because it's over here and which not.
Yep.
I think in terms of Black women, as the Black women always trying to be really self-reflective about what's next, having been divorced and like was I gonna give up on Black men or continue dating Black men? And like, no, I'm not gonna. Like, I fortunately know and have a lot of really great Black men friends who are great, awesome Black men who always let me know the grass was greener on the other side. Like, don't give up because they're out there. When are you going to be ready for him? And so it's a lot of self-reflection and doing a lot of your own deep discovery and dealing with your own personal traumas. Because for me personally, a lot of who I was choosing had a lot to deal with what, like, just growing up and like relationships with my parents, my personal relationships with my parents, not necessarily what I saw, but like my relationships with them, and like the role I chose to play in relationships. And for me, especially in relationship to me and my dad, like there's a lot, like there's a whole, like I've been in therapy for 2 years, like just trying to get the courage to deal with this one issue. So and that for me is like the underlying thing of the role I play in all of my relationships with men. And it's not, and I have been this caretaker person because I've also like seen that, because I have a lot of strong women in my family who are very much, I don't need you. And if a man's in my life, he's going to be there to like be the yes person and not necessarily there to be the helpmate. And so I've done a lot of thinking of how am I going to deprogram. You've all been conditioned into that. Like, how do I see a man and tell him I need help, I need you, you're a valuable person, like this is how I see you being a functioning person in my life. And yes, I got all my money right. Yes, I got the college degrees. Yes, I'm on a career path, but I need you by my side on that carpet and at those events and at those award shows, because I need you to cheer me on, because, you know, I'm fighting my own battle too. And if he's fighting his battle, how do I help him, you know, have peace at home and fight his battle? So it's like, looking at the article, for me, I was like, well, that's a whole self-reflection, and it's really deep. I think looking at Black males and females, especially in the United States, you know, Black women have a hard time playing what we love to call like a more demure or domestic kind of a role. We have a really hard time with that, because that lays in a lot of feminism and stereotypes that we do and don't want to talk about in our community. And so, and while Black men have a role and responsibility in that, as Black women, like, yes, it's okay to say, yeah, I like to cook for my household. And it's all right to say that there's, like, for me, there's certain parts of my house I won't let a man touch to clean up, because I'm particular. I got issues and I want it done my way. So, like, there's certain things I won't fight about. And there's certain components in a relationship that, you know, I like, talk about it. Like, let's have a conversation. Where are we? Don't just jump into things making assumptions that, oh, just because we've been dating or messing around for a year that we together. Like, don't make those assumptions. Ask the question, are we or are we not? What would make you comfortable in this relationship together? And what does that look like for us today? Like, how do we define our own rules? That's probably the biggest problem we have, is not defining our relationship for ourselves without like letting what we think society is telling us. And we have to remember, we have been bred and raised in a white society with white standards as our thing, and that wasn't our standard. So how do we walk away from that and figure out what our standard is for us? Because each one of us has our own way of wanting to be and exist in relationships. Like, you know, so it's a lot of question answering, asking and talking and conversations, but it's also, for me, it's very self-reflective in who do I want to be in that relationship, like as a mom, as a potential partner or spouse or whatever, and like, how am I not going to fall back to who I used to be? And a long time ago, there was a whole conversation about Black women and gaining weight. Ooh, I'm like, that's a trigger for me. So that's just like, because it's a lot of layers. And so I wish, you know, I just wish that wasn't even part of our conversation. But I think at the end of the day, Black women have to take accountability for how we continue to uphold and push the myth of the super Black woman. And we have to take accountability to shift that and show how that's going to be different, and how we can band together as a community with our men to like make our overall existence a little smoother. But I think that's what I have to say in short. But it's been a great conversation, because it's gone into all kinds of topics that we can't dive into. We don't have enough time.
Right.
Well, yeah, I like this. I've been chomping at the bit to get going on YouTube for a minute. I think actually when Erica started her YouTube stuff, that's when I was supposed to start mine. She's doing way better than a lot of people that I see doing stuff. But yeah, so there will be more of these. I don't have a schedule or a topic that I want to stick on, but I'll probably just whatever I see kind of floating around on social media, throw out a hangout and see if people are interested in coming on. So if any of you are ever interested in coming back, don't hesitate. Or if you see something and you're like, hey, I want a platform to talk about this, feel free to let me know. If I'm available, I'll start it up. So I have no problems with that.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. I really enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. So if any of you want to shout out your websites or YouTube channels or social media, feel free to do that now.
Okay, I have my private practice on Courage Consulting and Counseling for the individual or family on Facebook. So check me out.
Hey, it's me, Erica Williams, Classic Clown Blog. Yeah, it's been about 3 years, so I need you to come with it. But yeah, for sure. I basically deal with helping people start a business and investing in real estate. 9 times out of 10, African-American community, what are the two things if you look at 80% of African-American millionaires, it's business and real estate. They don't really deal a ton in stocks. They don't deal a ton in other areas. That's where they're very heavy laden. And so the insurance markets and all these things, when I was learning, doing internships, I was like, man, why are they trying so hard to grab African-Americans? And that was what it was about. So, but I love the channel. Basically today, the channel, the number one question I get in real estate is, how do I get invested with little to no money? Let's fix that mindset of yours that I'm broke, I ain't got my credit together, and I just want to get in there. It's almost a Dusty Jerome conversation. So mostly my channel is changing the mindset and the steps we need to take to get there. Right? So, but it's been a very lucrative ride too. So definitely, Brandon, you should jump in. But anyway, you guys have a great night. I'm in Texas, so I'm going to watch a little bit of TV and call it a day.
All right. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all.
Oh, I guess I throw mine out there, right? I'm a financial educator with World Financial Group. I'm licensed in life insurance and health insurance. I'm supposed to get my series licenses, but I refuse to because the people that I deal with, they don't understand anything about financial education. So the foundation of a financial house is insurance, life insurance, in case you die too soon. But we deal with, if you die too soon, if you get disabled, or if you live a long, healthy life, you have to be able to pay for that in retirement. My ultimate goal is to help Black families build 100-year plans. You see a lot of people on YouTube and Facebook, and they talk about financial literacy, but they don't tell you exactly how to do it. So the community I'm with is 95% Asians. I backed into the room, but I'm here now. They can't fire me. And the ultimate goal is for everybody around me and within my voice to become their own financial money manager. I don't want to manage your money. What we do is we teach people how to manage their own money. And if you decide to become a broker, that's great. If not, that's great too. So usually I talk to people via Facebook because, again, when I'm in public and I'm trying to talk to people, I'm basically still nigga. Right. But I do have the licenses, and I have been in the room for 5 years, and I do have a lot of information for people. And the goal is for you to come into the room with me. That way you don't have to worry about trusting me. If you win, great. If we win together, that's great too. So I'm on Facebook, Travis Keaton, KeeTon, Travis. That's it.
I'm gonna hit you up, Travis, later on Facebook.
Yeah, you got to get him on.
Yeah,
Classic
me
Clown.
I'll get him on. Dude,
I'm gonna check you out, Erica, too.
I remember telling people I got $1 million because our family owns farms or whatever, $1 million life insurance policy, and they thought, well, that's just crazy, Erica. Mm-hmm. And I go, but you don't know at what point in time you're going to fall out and die. A lot of people don't know to check on their health, and high blood pressure, strokes, you name it. There's a lot of African-American men that just fall over at 55 and 58. So to think you always have time and sometime later you'll be able to do this insurance thing, I really would like you to come on because it's so important. It's just it's an important part. It's like, how do you tell your family you love them and you have no plan for them?
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, my children have retirement plans already based on this life insurance, financial education situation. But if they die too soon, that's, they'll be paid for. But the ultimate goal is for them to use that cash for their retirement because pensions and Social Security is obsolete.
Very true. Yeah. Funny thing about you even saying that, I had friends when we left college, they went back home and worked where? In insurance. They went and got they stayed at ECU long time and they went right back working with their fathers in insurance. So it's a, we'll have a conversation. We'll save it for another night. But yeah, thanks you guys. You guys have been great.
You guys, yeah. I want to learn more, so I'm gonna check both of you out.
Please do. Please do. And Ginger, do you want to share anything?
So my website is girlsjustwannahavefuns.com, where we teach women how to break financial ceilings one stiletto at a time. That's about the intersection between women and personal finance. And also my new brand that I'm launching is phoenixgoddessproject.com, where I help women heal after toxic relationships. Even if they have been, even if they're still stuck, hurt, and confused. That'll be launching later on this month in July 2017.
I just want to add too about my Facebook. I am coming out with a website, but every month I talk about a different disorder, and this month I'm talking about anxiety. And so I put different things on. And also I'm starting on Facebook as Starla Wesley on Facebook, doing a relationship question and answer. So I started a little bit tonight, but check me out.
Awesome. Thank you all for coming on, taking the time to talk about this article and other things that pertain to Black folks and how we need to get our stuff together and work on ourselves. I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm always available, so feel free to hit me up if you have any questions. I'm going to be contacting some of you to come on my podcast in the near future. And I'm a resource, so utilize me. As you can see, I'm connected to all of you, and all of you are doing great things. That I try to make that intentional when I'm on Facebook to be connected to some good folks. So if anybody wants to get connected with anyone else on the call, let me know, and I'm, have no problems with connecting you folks. So I appreciate you all. You all have a good evening, and hopefully I'll talk to you all again soon.
All right. Good night.
Yep. Peace. All right. There you have it. That is the first Google Hangout here on the Jegna Institute, the Jegna channel. I think I'm going to call this thing Jegna TV. I'm not 100% sure just yet, but please note, stay tuned to the YouTube channel because I'm about to put out a whole bunch of content. If you found this video helpful, be sure to share with someone you care about. Be sure to check out my website, www.jegnainstitute.com. That's www.jegnainstitute.com. Just punch in Jegna, Jegna, Jegna in Google or YouTube. You will find us. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast, the Jegna Podcast. I am Brandon Jones, psychotherapist, behavioral health consultant, podcaster, and now YouTuber. And I'll holler at y'all all again soon. Peace.